Hello, I'm Jackie Lacey, AAF, AIFD, CFD, PFCI. Thank you for joining me today to look at plant trends for 2021 and some techniques for creating interesting options for today's market that will help you add creative flair and easy to care for designs to increase your revenue. Plants bring people joy, and more people than ever are realizing that caring for plants helps contribute to their well-being, especially during this time when most are spending more time at home. Working from home is on the rise, and we expect the popularity of plants that has been on the rise in the last several years to continue to grow even stronger. We see that once people make that decision to become a plant parent and make the initial purchase of a houseplant or become a plant parent as the recipient of a houseplant gift, they find a lot of immediate joy from them, and that is where we see the desire to increase their houseplant family expand. Let's talk about some plants for better health. We hope that 2021 will bring less isolation and stay-at-home time, but pandemic or not, the houseplant trend is here to stay. With challenges we have all dealt with this year, mental health has been a big discussion point socially and across news agendas throughout 2020, and 2021 will likely see the continuation of this trend. Many plants have health benefits, from purifying the air and reducing anxiety to relieving headaches and boosting mood. Combine this with the boost in florals in the home and well-being bouquets that have appeared. These have been designed especially for this cause and feature a selection of blooms that promote good health and happiness. Online florist Serenata Flowers launched a new mood-boosting bouquet of flowers to help ease the winter blues and famed for their health benefits. Featuring the color of the year, sunshine yellow, and the trend strong color classic blue, still showing up this year in many ways. Flowers are the perfect pick-me-up, as they have proven benefits for improving mood as well as a variety of holistic health benefits, perfect for tackling those winter blues. Soft neutrals, a trend we can expect to see in 2021 as a shift toward neutral shades with soft color palettes comprised of subtle tonal differences. As people are increasingly recognizing the need for sustainability and organic produce, we've seen that floral trends are beginning to follow suit, with increased demand for natural, earthier tones. Neomint is a color that trend forecasters predict would dominate interiors in 2021 and is described as an oxygenating fresh tone. The soft tones will help promote the well-being of those that get to enjoy this as a calming addition to their space. Let's take a moment to talk about orchids and their popularity. Orchids are still a go-to favorite for gift giving and self-indulgence, and their staying power to provide long-lasting, beautiful blooms extends the health benefits. Their elegance and beauty bring a pop of cheer into your home, especially on a dark winter day, with their vibrant colors and year-round availability. They are known to increase positive energy around them and to clean the air at night while we sleep. As a standalone blooming plant, or in a cluster of beautiful plants together, the simple elegance of the orchid plant makes it extremely versatile. The relatively easy care, and most people have the impression that required care is much more than it really is, make this a long-time favorite even though it is considered mysterious in their demands. Orchids will grow in low light and do not require extreme humidity. Best rule to live by is this: if you think it's time to water your orchid, wait one more day. It is not okay to use ice cubes on orchids, however. This mimics the amount of water that an orchid might like, but orchids are tropical plants and ice is cold. Let's take a look at a couple of different orchid scenarios here that you might be able to bring into the home or let your clients know about. Now, we're still seeing a rise this year in odd containers. The consumer still wants that splash of color, that little spot of something unusual and different that might be sitting on a shelf or together on a side table, maybe even split up on opposite sides of the room. Here we see two similar containers, but we're playing off of the colors, which is incredibly important. Remember, as we think about the elements and principles of design, color is one of the things that can make or break a design. And color being infused into a room is incredibly important. If we look at this here, we can see the contrasting colors of purple and orange playing against this orangey yellow with this pinky purple center in the orchid up here. So they move really well together with orange at the bottom and orange at the top. We really see this as a whole. We see it as a composition. And with the movement that is added in with the wire accent that has been added on there, we can see that when we look at it, we're marrying both the container and the orchid together. It's a great little conversation piece with the splash of color and the style in that particular container that's been added down there. And then adding in that side plant is incredibly important. You might want something with a little bit more color, say a prayer plant would be nice to go in here, but this beautiful fern is a great companion and very easy to care for as well. As we look at the other colors of the year, as we mentioned, that sunshine yellow, we're going to start seeing it everywhere. But we want to make sure that we're still bringing in some of that classic blue, which was last year's color. So combining those two, and especially when we add in the second color of the year, which is gray, into this collection, we can see how the colors really draw attention to the individual plant. The various textures within the plants, that variety of plants that we have here, really draw an eye to this collection. The contrast of the white against the classic blue. Another way to really add that pop in a room by mixing the textures, mixing the variety of plant that you have in there, and mixing the colors. You might want to think about, though, in the collection, if you're going to keep it together in one space, make sure that they all are relatively comfortable with the amount of light that they're going to get when they're used there. If you have plants that have different types of lighting, and maybe your window's on this side over here, and this needs a little bit more sunshine, then maybe that one gets a little closer to the window if you're going to split these up on a shelf. Just think about the lighting before you start putting collections together, because it's incredibly important. Let's look at another trend for 2021, health and well-being benefits of plants. There are a number of health benefits of having plants around your home. These benefits are far worth the work in setting up a routine in watering and feeding the plants. Some things to keep in mind. Plants accelerate the healing process. The presence of plants in hospital recovery rooms and/or views of aesthetically pleasing gardens help patients heal faster due to the soothing effects of ornamental horticulture. Plants can improve relationships and compassion. Research shows that people who spend extended lengths of time around plants tend to have better relationships with others. This is due to the measurable increases in feelings of compassion, another effect of exposure to ornamental plants. Plants can reduce stress. Studies show that people who spend time cultivating plants have less stress in their lives. Plants soothe human beings and provide a positive way for people to channel their stress into nurturing. And plants can increase concentration and memory. Being around plants help people concentrate better in the home and workplace. Studies show that tasks performed while under the calming influence of nature are performed better and with greater accuracy, yielding a higher quality result. plants can help people to improve their performance at work and at home by increasing their perceived vitality and giving them more feelings of added energy. Making a statement plants, the larger floor plant is still very popular for those that have the space, but we also see a trend that is making way for focal plants that draw attention in a cool container or a plant collection that can be displayed on a bookshelf, chest, or pedestal like we talked about earlier. This is due in part to limited space for some and the increase in moves for others to larger spaces after spending so much time at home in a smaller space that have more opportunities for additional plants. Textured and patterned foliage, interesting colors, and textures are growing in popularity as ways to make statements in small places. There are great ways to mix it up and provide unique statements and focal points. Mixing these in with other plants that might be easy care or what is considered more common household plants is a trend that has and will continue to be strong. Once the move to owning one plant is achieved and the ability to keep it alive and well crosses over, we see the need for additional plants become a reality, like expanding the family for those that are ready to make a commitment to plants, but maybe not quite ready for children or pets. Start small and gradually add plants while making sure you choose plants according to the natural light levels that they require and that you have in the space you will place it at home. Relate the light level you have in your space to somewhere in the natural environment, which has similar conditions to help guide you in your selection of plants. Do not be scared to bunch different plants together. They look great in groups and clusters, but you want to make sure they have similar lighting needs and, to make it easier on yourself, similar care needs such as watering and fertilizer. We're seeing an increase in the desire for begonias, and a lot of it goes back to what I talked about earlier, having something that has a variety of colors and textures. And the begonia, which is really an old-time plant. My grandmother had lots of them on the front porch. Begonias are both flowering and not, but people love the beautiful texture that you can see in the leaf of a begonia and the colors that are added in there. If you're a little frightened of a begonia, and you really shouldn't be, they're really easy to care for. There are so many other plants that can be added in, but I do want to briefly talk about the popularity of ferns, especially this new look that we're seeing out there with the rainbow fern. This one happens to be a cobalt, and I'm not sure that you can see it on screen, but it is beautiful blue tones that are added in to the light, feathery touch. Now, ferns require a little bit more work, or a little more fussy than others might be, but you can really see how soft and delicate this particular type of fern is. But seeing that beautiful green, the varieties of green, and then mixing in with that blue tone, especially with the popularity of the classic blue from Pantone's Color of the Year last year, really makes a huge difference. And then popping it into something that's galvanized is a great way to stay both trend forward and easy care. I always prefer to line any metal container that I'm going to put plants in, just to be on the safe side. But having a variety of plants put together that are still potted separately are also very important, because that will allow you to take them out individually. Having something like this that you pop in a little touch of an accessory like this driftwood kind of pulls it back to that ocean feel. We have a little bit of a country look in the type of plants, but with the galvanized container and the driftwood, if we threw a couple of shells on there, we'd be really trendy with the beach type accessories. So you can push it either way with what you're going to add to it. Make sure that as you begin to put collections together, you think about how they're going to be used. This one would look great on a windowsill. And we can see how we could go very modern by just adding them in a row on a windowsill, down on a table that might be in an area that's very well lit. And you can mix them around and match them depending on where you want the textures. And texture is so important. As we look at these, we can see that we've got that beautiful contrast in color. We've got great texture here. This is sort of soft and fuzzy, I would call it, with the asparagus fern. And then this waxy, more rigid, solid green foliage. So you've got a variety of textures, variety of colors. It's going to pair really well. Keep in mind that a lot of people might not have the space for something like this. And with the popularity of living walls, look for things like this that might provide you the opportunity to show how this could be used both on a patio outside or possibly on a kitchen wall, bathroom wall. This would really be great because plants love the humidity, and you've got something that can be moved around very easily and provide a great look for both the urban and metropolitan area, or if you're going to have it outside, if you happen to be in the country and have that beautiful view. Kitchen windowsill growing is still a trend. No matter what space you have, kitchen windowsill growing is accessible and easy. Micro plants or smaller plants in like a 4-inch or less smaller pot will grow quickly and take up little space. It also is a great way to get kids involved. They can each have a plant to themselves to care for. It will teach them how to nurture, get them interested in nature and plants, and give them a project. If you start them with herbs, they can even enjoy the fruits of their labor with dinner. Children love to imitate you in the garden or while gardening indoors. So get them their own versions of your tools, gloves, and assist them with watering to help their love of plants grow. The micro plant or smaller plant is a great way to start your collection and allow you the opportunity to see what grows well and what you really like best. With window boxes, hanging baskets, pots, and planters, they can be used to plant perennials, shrubs, and trees to add more structure to your space outside on your balcony, or used to keep your plants together inside and in one place for easier care. With the window box on the sill, a hanging fern from the ceiling, planters on the table beside that, and a large planter pot on the floor, your collection is complete. Adds depth and texture to your space and keeps you focused to one area of concentration. For the window box or fern, where you're going to hang it is going to be depending on your lighting, what's available. If you're going to get a plant that requires a lot of indirect lighting, it's going to be need to be relatively near or close to a window that gets probably morning sun. East, west, or north sun is normally best for most plants. But if it's something that doesn't want too much sunshine or too much direct sunlight, it might be something that you move a little further across the room, center of the room, or on the other side from where those windows are. When it comes to collections, and especially if you're going to assign one to each child, you might want to put them in an area that they can't get right to them, so that when you work together, you worked on them together, rather than the kids being able to constantly mess with them, maybe overwater them, or get too much in there. So think about where you're going to keep them if you're going to make it a project for your children to work on as well. Remember, when you get their love of plants growing, you're going to find that they're going to want to touch and feel every chance they get. So make sure that you have a cot and set some rules when you talk to the children about their gardening. Also, with collections, doesn't mean that they all have to be kept right together. You can put them on shelving, you can put them across the room, you can put them on various places on one shelf, but you want to think about the style. A lot of people like that bohemian look right now. It's incredibly popular, which means it's going to be mix and match. Nothing is going to be matchy-matchy or coordinate with the rest of the room. But some of us like to have things that are neat, orderly, and all color coordinated. Either way is great because you can change up the texture and the color depending on the plants that you put in the containers. Cactus. The fishbone cactus, blue star fern, and bunny ear cactus are among some of the most popular indoor plants we see everywhere in 2021. These have skyrocketed in popularity. One of the expected draws to these plants is the easy to care for and very low maintenance. Cacti have always been a houseplant favorite, but are continuing to grow in popularity due to their easy care. We see them on top of many of the lists for 2021 as they can be exotic without all the fuss and care some other choices can present. Bunny ear cactus, sometimes called polka dot cactus, are a favorite for this year. And well, the name says it all. They have the appearance of bunny ears and are very easy to propagate. Blue star fern is another favorite for this year. This is a great year-round foliage houseplant as it tolerates low light. It is best to place it in indirect light towards the center of the room or keep it near an east, west, or north-facing window. Its green-gray foliage is a favorite and a great addition to a collection to add a different texture and foliage. Let's take a look at another favorite that has been increasingly on the list of trending plants, Lanzia the Air Plant. This is a fad that quickly turned into a trend and has been growing more and more every year. The easy care and small varieties that are available are both great for terrariums, small little vessels, living walls, and additional add-ons to other plants. This is an easy living wreath that you can create that will also be a great option for the bathroom window or kitchen window and is easy to make. The base for this wreath is Spanish moss, which is also a form of Lanzia or air plant, and as such needs to be cared for similarly. It loves the humidity, as do all air plants, and sometimes can be challenging to keep it alive inside the home. But try misting it every couple of days to keep the moisture up as they absorb moisture through their leaves. Or you can soak your air plant in room temperature water for 5 to 10 minutes every 1 to 2 weeks and gently shake the excess water from your plant before returning them to the same growing position. If the Spanish moss on this wreath does die, it will still be a good holder wreath that we're going to create and a great way to store your other air plants for continued enjoyment. With Spanish moss, you can see that it is a gray-green when it's starting to dry, and when you wet it, it's a more vibrant green. When watered, it should be able to appear to be no more dry or to dry in no more than 3 hours. Dunking it will also get the center of the Spanish moss wet, where misting it will not. With this easy to make wreath, we're going to start with a metal ring. You want to make sure that if you're using Lanzia or Spanish moss, that you need to cover the metal, because Spanish moss hates metal. The zinc in it will cause it to die really quickly. So we're going to cover this one with regular sheet moss. And the great thing about using this metal frame is that you can actually just push the moss right into the frame, so you're covering both the front and the back. It's easy to do without putting too much, paying too much attention to it. Just twist it right around, as you can see that I'm doing. We're moving it in and out, because the last thing we'll do is to take a little bit of fishing line and just cover the moss to make sure that it stays attached really well. So as we continue to cover with the green sheet moss. You can see it doesn't take a whole lot. I just have it in a tray right here and kind of just squeezing around the frame. We really want to make sure that we're covering as much of that metal as possible. Like I said, it is important that the Spanish moss really doesn't touch the metal because it will make it expire very quickly that way. I got a little piece here on the edge. So we've got it all covered front and back. You can see what a mess the moss makes, especially when you start working with it like this. We're going to take our fishing line. I like to go ahead and tie it because I'm using a really low pound gauge. We're just wanting this to hold on and to not let the moss slip off too much. So it doesn't have to be incredibly strong. Moss is very light, as we can see. We just tie it, and then we're going to wrap it a little bit around the rest of the moss to just help hold it in place. And the main reason of using fishing line is, again, if you use bullion, wire, anything like that, it's going to be the same thing. The zinc really makes the Spanish moss not hold up too well. It'll die very quickly, and we don't want that. One of the great things about using the Spanish moss, because with it being Lanzia, then you can water the whole moss. You can actually just put the whole thing right down in the tub or into the sink and water all of it that way. Or you can individually take the air plants off and water them. Just a little bit more. And again, we didn't put a whole lot of fishing line on there. You might want a little heavier gauge if you tend to pull on it too much as we wrap it around, just to secure it to the wire and to cover that wire before we add the Spanish moss. Now I just go right back to where I started, and I'm going to tie that off there, and then I'll cut off the excess just so that we don't see it hanging, especially if we're going to hang this in the window in front of a mirror or something like that. Now that we've got our wreath all covered with the moss, we want to add our Spanish moss on. And this has been grown just on a little paper clip. You can see it grows very easy like this. This was grown in a controlled environment from the Russell's Bromeliads, who provided us with the air plants. Grows this in a greenhouse, so there are no bugs in it. We don't have to worry about doing anything to it because it's fresh. We don't want to kill it. We want to keep it fresh as much as possible. The great thing about the Spanish moss is it's on a little plastic piece, so it's easy to take that paper clip and work it right in to the wreath, and then you can kind of split it up, move it in, twist it around a little bit. Spanish moss does not like to be touched and messed with a whole lot. So to keep this looking at its prime for as long as it possibly can, you want to make sure that you just don't mess with it a whole lot. Get it locked onto your wreath, twist it around like I said, or whatever you want to do. Once you've got the whole thing covered, it's really easy to keep it looking nice because you're going to control the water, control the humidity. add as much or as little as you would like to. If you need to go back in and add in just a couple of more pieces of the fishing line, it will allow you to leave some of that to drape off a little bit. And look, that looks great just the way it is. But we want to add in the air plants or the Lanzia. And we've got these beautiful ones with the little blooms in there. The great thing about the Spanish moss is that it's easy to just tuck the air plants right down in so that we're not messing with them too much. It sits right in the moss. We can go all the way around. We can just do them in clusters. Whatever you would like to do, it's totally up to you. Place them all around your wreath, place them in little clusters. You can hang it up on the bathroom wall, hang it on a door if you would like, or if you want to set it on a table where everything grows up, then you can tuck them right down in the moss and the Spanish moss very quickly. You can see how easy that is to put together, and it's very easy to maintain, and you've got a beautiful living wreath. As you can see, the trends in houseplants may change from year to year, but the demand and desire for bringing nature inside shows no sign of changing. Plants are good for our health, our environment, and the well-being of our planet. Today's plant craze is being fueled by millennials to no longer waiting periods to buy a home, putting off marriage, and delaying or foregoing having children. This leaves plants a great option to have something to nurture and make them feel like adults. Indoor plants have been in our lives since the 17th century, and from the looks of things, are not going out of style or going back outdoors anytime soon. Thank you for joining me for a look at the 2021 plant trends. I am pleased to have this opportunity to share with you, and could not have been able to do so without the help of the TPIE staff, Janet Black AIFD, and our sponsors. AIFD, the American Institute of Floral Designers; Central Florida Ferns, the ferns and plants; Russell's bromeliads for the Lanzia; Silver Vase for the orchids; and Plants in Design for the bromeliads. Foliage, powered by BloomNet, provided the recording studio and editing.